The first time you learned how to ride a bicycle, you probably used training wheels. Remember them? It turned a two-wheeled bicycle into a four-wheeled vehicle. Well, when we're trying to lose weight, we need to start with the training wheels. It's really, really important to start at this point with training wheels and wait until you've gotten really, really good at this before you take those training wheels off and you're riding that bike all on your own without any extra assistance. So when you're riding that bicycle without the training wheels, it requires balance, right? And you just have learned how to intuitively balance that bike. If it leans a little to the left side, I know what I need to do to bring it back to the center, and so forth. You're going to get so good at knowing portion sizes in terms of what's appropriate for you, in terms of knowing basically the caloric content of a lot of the different foods that you're going to eat, and getting so good that you can probably guess how many calories are in a meal that you order, even at like a restaurant where that information is not readily available. That's how good you are going to get eventually. And so you won't have to do these painstaking efforts to count calories and measure and everything else. But until you get to that level, you have to learn about the caloric content of a lot of the typical foods that you eat, and you have to get really, really good at being able to estimate calories. You need to start with the training wheels. When you get to that point where they come off, it's like, have you heard of intuitive eating? This is like the biggest thing, right? Intuitive eating. It's this idea that we feed ourselves based on just what we need. So in other words, we're so in tuned with what our body needs that we just give it that amount, not more, not less. And it's just like this perfect relationship with our body almost, where we just kind of know what it needs and we don't have to obsess about calories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now that's all great. One, if you've broken your food dependency, because you can't trust your intuition if you still have a food dependency. And two, if you're really good at estimating calories and having this kind of relationship with food where you just kind of know, like, this is appropriate for me to eat, this is not excessive, this is exactly what I need. When you get to that level, it's going to get so much easier, but it's going to take work before you get to that level. Everything takes work before you get to that level. If you're trying to learn a sport or a new skill, everything feels really awkward and really laborious and effortful at first until it becomes more automatized. Remember how driving was when you first started? Oh my gosh, there were so many things you had to, pay attention to. And then God forbid it rained or something. And then you had to deal with windshield wipers and daytime running lights and everything else, right? Well, it's going to be effortful until you get to that level. But it doesn't mean it's got to be so, so difficult. So what you can do is you can just start planning meals and learning some of the most common meals that you're going to be eating in terms of the calories. So like, let's say in the morning, you typically have oatmeal or cold cereal for breakfast, or pancakes or waffles. There doesn't tend to be that much variety for breakfast, right? so that we can start learning what, a cup of oatmeal is, right? Which is 300 calories. See, I can do it like that because I've learned, right? Or a cup of reduced fat milk, which is about 120 to 130 calories. A cup of raisin bran, which is usually about just under 200 calories. You're going to learn what the basic calories are for many, many, many types of foods. If you eat eggs, an egg is usually sub 100 calories, somewhere around there, right? Start with some basic meals, right, for breakfast, and kind of rotate them if you're the type that gets bored easily of eating the same food every day for a week. If you're not, that's the easiest way to start, right? So this week I'm going to have oatmeal with some milk, and that's what I'm doing for this whole week. And then next week I'll focus on a different breakfast. If you can stand having the same meal for a week, then that's great. Or if you can stand having the same meal for a week, just for a period of time till you start really learning about calories, because this isn't going to be long term. You're eventually basically going to put to memory so many types of food and about how many calories certain portions are. And you're going to get to a point where you're not even going to need a measuring cup. I mean, I know by eye what a tablespoon of something is versus a quarter cup, half cup, and full cup. And so am I off a little bit with the calories? Of course, it's a ballpark figure, but it's pretty damn close. Close enough so that I know whether or not I'm sticking to a game plan to lose weight or maintain weight. For lunch, same thing. Try to learn the basic calories of a lot of different, or the general amount of calories for a lot of different kinds of foods, like a wrap or 2 slices of bread. Wraps can vary a lot. There are some wraps that can be 200 calories and other wraps only maybe 120. It's based on the size and then also based obviously on the content of what's in the wrap. What it's made with, right? Whole wheat bread, you can start learning about, how many calories 2 slices of a whole wheat bread is. Turkey, I'm talking about like deli-sliced chicken, 25 calories an ounce usually. Deli-sliced turkey, 30 calories an ounce usually. Deli-sliced roast beef, pastrami, or corned beef, around 40 calories an ounce. I'm telling you, you will become like an encyclopedia of calories. And the idea is not to become obsessed with them. It's just knowledge. That's all it is. A lot of this is learning. Sometimes people are absolutely shocked when they see how many calories some of their favorite foods are. And they way, way, way underestimate them. And they're like, oh my gosh, how many calories is in a tablespoon of butter? 100. How many calories is in a tablespoon of oil, like olive oil, which is actually pretty good for you, but it packs a punch with calories? It's 120 calories a tablespoon. So if you're loving olive oil and you get like a nice size piece of Italian bread and you love to douse it with olive oil, if that's like 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil on that loaf of bread, well, that's 500 calories about with the olive oil plus the bread, which is probably, if it's this big, at least several hundred. It's like 800 calories for that bread, that hors d'oeuvre that you have before you've even eaten your meal, or that adjunct to the meal that you usually have with the pasta. That adjunct is already 800 calories. So doing this will teach you about what kinds of foods are really calorically dense, which is a fancy way of saying have a lot of calories for a small amount, versus calorically sparse, which is a large quantity only having a little amount of calories, like lettuce, right? Start planning meals and start learning about calories and give yourself a ballpark of what you want to shoot for. On the web, there are tons of calorie calculators that can basically tell you what your caloric needs are on a given day. So like, let's say you're at a certain body weight, and to maintain that body weight, you find out from one of these calorie calculators that you need 3,500 calories a day, right? So if you make a meal plan for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's about 3,000 calories a day. If you're only eating 3 meals a day, that's about 1,000 calories a meal, which is a nice sized meal, really. That's a deficit of 500 calories a day times 7 days a week is 3,500 a week, which is 1 pound of fat. So you're losing 1 pound of fat on this kind of plan. So try to find out what your baseline metabolic needs are, how many calories about each day you need, and then create a plan for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that is going to distribute those calories that you plan on eating for that day, let's say 3,000, evenly distribute it. Certainly, there are many variations, right? Like I think I told you that if breakfast is the biggest meal, it can really help so that you're not so hungry for the next couple meals. So maybe you do a breakfast of like 1,200, a lunch of 1,000, and dinner of 800, and there's your 3,000 calories, right? Or you do meals of about 800 calories for each meal, that's 2,400 calories, and 2 snacks for 300 calories each. And there are many easy snacks like a yogurt, which will tell you exactly how many calories is in it, usually around like 120 up to 150, something like that usually, if it's not light. An apple, sub 100 calories, a granola bar could be around 100 calories, all sorts of different snacks, a handful of nuts. Just be careful because, too many nuts packs a lot of calories. They're calorically dense. And just create a meal plan. Start out with a simple meal plan of one, if you can do it, or a couple different kinds of breakfasts, one, if you can do it, or a couple different kinds of lunches, and same thing for dinner. When I first started out, to be honest with you, I would make the same dinner for like 5 nights in a row. And that's all I would eat for those 5 nights. Same thing with lunch and same thing with breakfast, just because I wanted to be super accurate with how many calories I was consuming. Now, at the level I'm at, now it's just so easy for me to ballpark it. I don't need to measure things. I don't need to sit there and scrutinize how many calories are in this and that. Like I can do this intuitive eating, as they call it, where I just kind of know what I need to eat for breakfast, what's appropriate, what's going to fill me up, but not pack on extra weight. You will get to that level, but first, you got to start riding that bicycle with the training wheels. If you have any questions for me, any specific or even general questions, please post them on my Facebook page, and I will be sure to post a video in response to your question. This is Dr. Fields. I hope you have a great weekend.